Yo, what's good, Spirit Squad? Today, it kind of occurred to me that we're not actually at Mythic yet on Magic Arena, so that's what we're going to do today. We're going to go ahead and play some Mono Blue Spirits and work our way up to the Mythic rank. Here, this list is going to be relatively normal for what we've been doing for a while, with some sideboard exceptions that we'll check out because of the difference between Explorer and Pioneer. Here, just like our Pioneer list, we've got a pretty heavy one-drop spot. We've got 2 copies of Spell Pierce and 2 copies of Slip Out the Back to help protect our creatures from whatever bad shit our opponents are trying to do to us. But we've got 4 Spectral Sailors, 4 Mausoleum Wanderers, and we have trimmed the Ascended Spirits down to 2. This is a change that I've been liking. I don't really want to play all 4, and I haven't been playing all 4, and it's been working. So we're going to stick with 2 for right now. We've got a bunch of good 2-drops as well. Supreme Phantom, Shacklegeist, and Rattle Chains with 2 copies of Lofty Denial. Now, Lofty, I'm honestly a little bit mid on currently. It's not bad, it's not great, but it does the job. And especially since cards like Eidolon and the Great Revel just came out on Arena a couple of weeks ago, I think people are probably going to be a little bit excited to still be playing decks like Mono Red because it's kind of been given new life on Arena. I don't know whether that's going to end up being the case today, of course, because we haven't played yet, but I think that's going to be a reason why I don't necessarily enjoy the idea of these right now. But I do want to play 2 copies of Brazen Borrower, and I'm playing this over the Nebelgast Heralds that were in the main a few weeks ago, and I think that's going to be a testament to a few bigger decks showing up. Like, people are going to be playing things like Shieldred, and I would rather have that off the table than tapped. People are playing things like just miscellaneous combo decks, a lot of which have enchantments involved, and Nebelgast Herald doesn't really do anything to those, but Brazen Borrower does a lot to those. And then, of course, 4 Geistlight Snares. Why would those ever go anywhere? 19 of these, 3 of these. Very, very simple stuff as far as the main deck goes. Moving on to the sideboard's going to look very, very close to what we did a few weeks ago at our latest IRL tournament, because the top end of Pioneer, I believe, is going to be pretty close to the same as it is in real life, meaning that I'm going to be preparing for things like Rakdos mid-range, Mono Green, which just got nicked though, so it's going to be really popular on the ladder, and then the other usual suspects. Hopefully, no Angels. Fuck that deck. But we've got 3 copies of Aether Gust, and this is going to be especially good because remember, Eidolon and the Great Revel just came out. I know I've said this already, I'm saying it again, it's going to be important. We've got 2 copies of Reckoner Bankbuster, primarily for control and Rakdos, but I think this card works out fairly well in just about any really grindy matchup. We're going to be playing all 4 copies of Mystical Dispute here on Arena because, unlike Pioneer, Mono Blue Spirits is easily one of the best decks in all of Explorer because of the slightly smaller metagame. There are decks like Is It Phoenix, for example, that don't really exist on Explorer because there's no such thing as Treasure Cruise or Temporal Trespass. So we have a few fewer. I'm just going to pretend that works somehow. But we have less decks to kind of prey on our little creatures with things like Rending Volley out of the sideboards and Ledger Shredders and Thing in the Ices. We don't really have to deal with that anywhere near as much here as we would in actual Pioneer. But we want all 4 copies of Mystical Dispute to help combat the Mono Blue Spirits mirrors. 2 copies of Slip Out the Back, and this is going to be the biggest change to the sideboard, because Rakdos is the best deck in Pioneer and has been for some time, but that makes it even more the best deck here because there's fewer decks to help contend. There are decks like Phoenix, for example, that I think have a pretty reasonable lineup against Rakdos because your Thoughtseize is never beating a Treasure Cruise, for example. So that angle of attack, Rakdos doesn't really have to consider, making it even stronger here than it is in Pioneer. So we're going to put some additional sideboard cards in to help deal with that. We already talked about these. There is going to be a 3rd copy of Brazen Borrower because we just want to make sure that things like Mono White don't really get out of hand with all of their onboard permanents. We do want to still have some ways to help defend against that, even if I'm not going as deep on Nebelgast Herald as I was previously. And then 3 Leyline of the Void. Of course, there's no Is It Phoenix for this card to directly prey on, but there's still going to be stuff like Greasefang, miscellaneous combo decks, and I don't really want to deal with anything, so if I have to read cards, that usually means a graveyard is involved somewhere. So we're going to play 3 copies of Leyline of the Void to play around that. Of course, you have the sweet upside of it being an enchantment too, so it plays even nicer with you guys' light snares. So that's going to be today Mono Blue Spirits list. Let's jump on the rank ladder. I'll see y'all in that first game. Welcome to the first round. We get to play first, and our hand is acceptable. Couple of counter spells, decent 1-drop. This 2-drop is very good in a lot of matchups. So far so good. I'll take it. Here's a Wanderer, and now let's see what our opponent is cooking up. What is this? That looks like New Phyrexia's set symbol, so I assume it's gonna be some kind of relatively cool Esper deck. I don't know if this is going to be Esper Greasefang or what. Maybe it's Esper Control. Faithful Mending. Remember that time we just talked about Leyline of the Void and cards I would probably have to read? I am going to let this slide because you can generally get rid of any of the cards that I actually care about. Since remember, I already have Lofty Denial for Greasefang itself. Ooh, that's a good draw. And then a low-key all-star against these type of decks too is that Shacklegeist is very good against Greasefang. So they're just like never gonna have access to this Sky Sovereign that's in the graveyard. Because even when they try to do the cool thing, I can still just like tap their friend down. So here, I am going to... I think I'm just gonna put Faceless Haven up, attack with only Shacklegeist and Faceless Haven, take them down to 8, and then leave 2 creatures up to tap a Greasefang if they do resolve 1. Okay, so I'm not gonna get to do anything about them actually getting the Sky Sovereign in play, so they can kill off my Shacklegeist here. But this is still not the end of the world. If they try to... Oh, well, now it's really good. So I'm going to go ahead and attack for 6. So we get to attack for 6, they go down to 2, and now they have to, through Rattle Chains and a Spell Pierce, somehow get Sky Sovereign or Parhelion on the table. Gaining 2 life is a bit of a pain. I think I actually just cast Spell Pierce and don't let them have that. I think this is what I'm supposed to do here. So if they tap both mana, then I just will sacrifice one of these. Yeah, let's make their life just a little harder here. Oh, well, that plays. Granted, we had a lot of things to be able to do about it, but I'll take an I win button. So now, knowing that we're playing against Esper Greasefang, I do want the Leylines of the Void, and I want Mystical Disputes. I also want my 1-off Brazenbower. Cards that I don't really care about include the Ascendant Spirit, since I assume they're also going to be playing cards like Fiend's Informant and other cards that can kind of gum up the ground. Maybe they're even playing things like Stitcher Supplier. We don't really want the Spell Pierces. We did see that they have Faithful Mending, but if I'm going to be putting in 4 Mystical Disputes, I don't think I also need Faithful Mending. 2 more cards that I don't particularly care about here. It might actually be the Slip Out the Backs, even though we know they have removal. No, it's definitely Geistlight Snare, I think. Yeah, I think I'm going to take out the Geistlight Snares down to 2x here, because I do want some Slip Out the Backs. So I can use Slip Out the Back offensively or defensively against this deck. I can, for example, save my creatures from a Sky Sovereign trigger, or I can phase out a creature they would be trying to use to crew a Parhelion. So either way, I think that works out really well for us. But I think I like most of where this goes, right? Like with all 4 copies of Mystical Dispute makes it so that we're going to be feeling pretty decent about the counterspell versus counterspell aspect. And yeah, for example, this is pretty great. So I got a Mausoleum Wanderer, Spectral Sailor. Either of those work great with Shacklegeist, and a Mystical Dispute helps to protect against just about every Faithful Mending type of deal they've got going on here. So I am going to play that. If they want to kill it, that's fine. I would rather they use a spell here. Oh, that's good for us. A 2-mana spell even. So I'm going to do this and hold up Mystical Dispute. So this way, if they just resolve like a Greasefang, I'm already like medium annoyed at that. But if they just try to Faithful Mending, for example, then I can fight over that. Greasefang on its own currently doesn't do anything other than attack for 4. Oh, Vanishing Verse again. Yeah, that's fine. And there's no point to sacrificing there since I don't really care about any copies of, Ooh, I'm gonna wait exactly 1 more turn. So that does a couple of things for me. If they cast just like a Greasefang with this 3 mana, then I don't mind using Mystical Dispute as a 3-mana counterspell. Same goes for Liliana. And then here, I can Shacklegeist untap Rattle Chains. I'm sorry, Shacklegeist and hold up Rattle Chains to protect it. And this way, if they try to, like, I don't know, Fatal Push, Vanishing Verse, whatever, again, I don't mind being able to protect this and then untapping and doing my own thing. Don't know that I really wanted that. But let's do this, see if they want to try to remove it in response. And if they have something to fight over Rattle Chains, then there is potential to get got, but I think we're playing this fairly safely. Brazenbower. Okay. Oh, sick. So now let's see if this effect actually goes through. It does. Okay, so that fizzles their Brazenbower too, which is really nice. Yep. Can't do much about that. Ooh, that's really good for them. Oh, that presents me with a medium dilemma. So, knowing that they just dumped two big-ass vehicles, I can simply choose to not attack, leave my Curious Obsession to its own fate, and know that I can use Shacklegeist to tap down whatever they have. Or, I can attack and gamble. I don't think we're here to not gamble. I'm going to try to draw any spirit. Damn it. Okay. So, if they have a Greasefang here, then you got me. I tried it. Oh, that's still obnoxious, but not as bad as it could have been. I'm still going to try this again. Let's get an attack in. Really didn't want that. Okay. Temporary lockdown. That sucks, but you got it. Sure. The cool thing about temporary lockdown for us is that if we see another Brazen Borrower, we can use Petty Theft to at least temporarily get our stuff back. Of course, it being a temporary lockdown. Ew. That's better. So let's go ahead and get an attack in. They go down to 11. And if they try to play a creature of some sort, I don't mind using Spectral Sailor's draw ability to try to really just draw something relevant. And if their entire plan is to attack with this, then I legitimately don't know that I care. So I will try to counter this though. Not gonna happen. Okay. I still think this is pretty good though. No creature. That's good for me. So now I can draw 2 cards with Spectral Sailor because I have 8 lands. They know that. I also know that I have both Rattlechains and Supreme Phantom, but I don't want to show them Supreme Phantom quite yet. What I want to do here is use the draw effect. They already have vehicles in the graveyard, so I'm not going to worry about that too much. Void Rend. Okay, good to know they have that. And there's a Greasefang. So now let's try to do something about this. Not going to happen. So they can use the Greasefang with a Parhelion. Yeah, alright. I don't mind going to game 3 here. On the play, what changes? On the play, I do want these back because I just have a much, much higher chance of being able to use my Geistlight snares. But I legitimately think that last game was completely fine. I can't really do much when you draw 10 lands. Whoa, yes, don't mind if I do. Alright, and here I'm just going to hold up Spectral Sailor. If I happen to draw a CO, I'll be really happy that I decided to use Mausoleum Wanderer as something that could have protected a Spectral Sailor here. So I'm still going to play it though, because I want to be able to use Mausoleum Wanderer to counter a Vanishing Verse if they try to use one to target the Leyline of the Void. Ooh, that's good. Do I want Supreme Phantom? Let them kill Supreme Phantom potentially? Nah. Brazen Borrower here. I will use the Mausoleum Wanderer to get rid of that. So if they untap and then have access to a Vanishing Verse with a land drop, then it is what it is. But I think currently I'm okay with just untapping. Oh, that's good. So here I will play the Supreme Phantom, and I think I'm going to hold back on the Shacklegeist until post-combat. I want to see if this dies or not. Void Rend on the Leyline. You got it. I don't think there's a 1-mana card I'm especially scared of with access to Greasefang, right? Like, I don't think these guys are going to be playing like Consider, but I am going to save this to play around Temporary Lockdown. So this way, if they cast Temporary Lockdown, that's fine. Then I can Brazen Borrower and Instep, get rid of the lockdown, buy my friends back, untap, attack. Oh, actually, no, I'm a liar. They actually are playing Consider. All right. So I would have gotten got on that because we literally talked about that just like 30 seconds ago. So here, I'm going to, what, just attack for 7 and be happy about that? Oh, no, 8. Yeah, all right. Attack for 8, and then I'm still holding up Petty Theft, and I'm going to respond to the trigger here. So if they have a Mystical Dispute as one of what they're doing with this last piece of mana here, then I'm sad and there's nothing I can do about that. But yes, I was going to say, but if that's not what they have, evil laugh. And then I've got Rattlechains to protect any of these guys too. So yeah, life is very good for just me. GG's to our opponent. Let's move on to the next round. All right, next round up, we are on the play. Ew. Okay, that's better. Yeah, don't really want to be dealing with 5-landers. That sounds kind of terrible. So let's go ahead, hold up a combo of either Spectral Sailor or Spell Pierce, and be pretty happy about that. A little less happy in the mirror, but still not terrible. So we have one of our few applicable uses of Spell Pierce. Oh, okay, good. I was going to say, so hopefully they're not both playing and holding Spell Pierce. I will take 2 from this, though. And Brazen Borrower is actually not that bad for us. So I can Brazen Borrower the Ascendant Spirit, and I can't Brazen Borrower this, because if I do, then they'll just sacrifice it, countering my Brazen Borrower, so I won't get Petty Theft later. But if I Brazen Borrower the Ascendant Spirit, then that guarantees that I can actually use this card, because if I let them untap, I'm not guaranteed to ever resolve this. They can just Rattlechains anything, and next turn, I can then hold up the combination of like Brazen Borrower or Geistlight Snare. I will have a 4th mana, so I can draw a card in theory. So there's a lot of things that I can do, provided I actually do see basically the light of day here. If they have another CO, then I would have been screwed, but they didn't, so that's good. And that's much worse. Okay, Faceless Haven for us as well. That's actually kind of nice. I will resolve this while the getting's good, but if I'm being completely honest, I am not excited about my chances here. I don't mind going to game 2. Yikes. So I want you, I want all of you. I do not really want you, and I definitely don't want you. 2 mana, no. So let's try to, yeah, maybe do a little better than that here. So snack time rocks, right? And as we are recording, it is the day after Christmas, which means for both me and Kristen, it's a great time for all of these chocolate oranges. So I've been snacking on this thing for the last like half an hour, and half of it's already gone. But I didn't even know until a few years ago that chocolate oranges were a thing that we both really, really enjoy. But knowing that, been a huge little life bonus around the holiday season. So let's play first here. My hand's okay. Okay, an opponent's basically doing the same thing I am, which is just trying to guarantee the highest number of cards resolving as possible in one go. And since they played Spectral Sailor, rather than hold up Brazen Power or mana to pump this, I'm going to resolve my Supreme Phantom now. This way, A, they're tempted to just try to resolve a Shacklegeist, knowing, but I can untap and Brazen Power that. They have their own Supreme Phantom, that's fine. Oh, hi, that's good. So I think I'm actually just going to resolve that. Yeah, I'm just going to put as much power and toughness as I can on the table here. So if they want to double block the Ascendant Spirit, I will very happily kill the Supreme Phantom. But that's a good stable block for them, so I don't really hate that from them. And here, what I'm going to do is just attempt to resolve this Spectral Sailor, but also signal to my opponent that I might be holding up Mystical Dispute mana. If they do just try to dance around the Mystical Dispute, that's cool, I can resolve this. If they don't try to dance around it, then that's fine because I have a 3/3 blocker. There's a CO, I'm okay with that. And that's actually pretty good on them for being able to do that, because now what they have access to, whoa, don't really want to deal with that. But at least this way, unless this is a Mystical Dispute, they will have to choose between Supreme Phantom and Spectral Sailor for the block. I also kind of have to play around, never mind. So I'm going to take this. They get to draw 2, but I get to untap and Petty Theft the Spectral Sailor. So their 2 COs are going to fall off, and basically they're stuck kind of starting over. And then I get to just do this. So I will attack all here, and they can block one of these. I'm still going to hold off on pumping the Ascendant Spirit, because I still might want to signify that I'm holding a counterspell, even if that is a lie. They have their own Faceless Haven. Okay. Supreme Phantom number 2. You got it. So now let's wait until EOT. I will tap out to level up to level 1 here. See if they have a Brazen Power. No, just a Spectral Sailor. You got it. Well, I shouldn't say just a Spectral Sailor. That is a good play for them. But I do want to activate my Faceless Haven. Oh, while we're doing that, since we have time, when you're playing on clients like Arena or Magic Online, make sure you notice the little indicators that tell you which of your Faceless Havens just came into play. So this one, for example, has the little swirly. So you can see this little swirly icon here that tells you it just came into play, because this Faceless Haven does not have that. Also, if you hover over this, there's a whole little icon to the right that says enter the battlefield this turn. So that's how you at least can know which of your Faceless Havens enter the battlefield. And this way, you don't accidentally tap out and make the wrong one a creature and just embarrass yourself. It's not good times. This attack, however, is great times. So they can double block with Supreme Phantoms on one of my Supreme Phantoms. But then they're looking at a whole lot of damage coming at their face. So they got to make some choices here. I also get to resolve my Spectral Sailor unless they're holding a Mystical Dispute or want to try resolving their own Spectral Sailor. And it looks like they are going to double block one of my Supreme Phantoms. Okay. So now what else are we going to block, because you're still stuck blocking elsewhere? Okay. So now they're at 4. And I'm going to try to resolve this now while the getting's good and see what they can do about this with me being still at 16. And the answer is nothing. So now we're going to take the exact same game plan, try to run it back for game 3. I will be making no changes. Yeah, I'll be making no changes. So one change I thought about making was taking out that second Lofty Denial for maybe a copy of Slip Out the Back, so that I can potentially fizzle their Curious Obsession with it. So what happens is, if I have a Slip Out the Back and they're trying to cast a Curious Obsession onto their own creature, I can use my Slip Out the Back targeting their creature, phase it out, and then the Curious Obsession won't resolve since the target will be phased out. So that is a thing that we could do. Or Slip Out the Back helps to play around wonky double block scenarios, but I think I'm okay with the Lofty Denial, just 1x staying in. This is ultra mid. I think I'm gonna try it, but I acknowledge this is not a good hand. It's stable, it has a Shacklegeist, and if I draw a Mystical Dispute, I can help protect this from when it tries to resolve. It's not nothing? Ugh. Okay, so Shacklegeist resolved, which means most of the hardest part of the early game has at least been... Task 1 has been completed. Resolve Shacklegeist. From here, my job is to... Yuck. My job is to really just kind of not die from here, but if I can resolve this Supreme Phantom, or if I draw a 1-drop to resolve something, Shacklegeist can control this Supreme Phantom, stop them from being able to... Oh, gross. And we drew 2 more lands. Oh boy. Alright, send help. Earth, send me your energy. Please do not counterspell this. I'm so dead if you counterspell this. Oh yeah, I am extra dead. I'll give it 1 more attack step. I will attempt to play for 1 more turn. Since I will have 4 mana next turn, resolving either of these helps here. But I am likely just ultra dead. Yeah, being on the draw with a hand of 2 drops is not good. Oh, that's not helpful here. Okay, so let's try to resolve you first. See if you want to say anything about that. Okay. So now how do I get out of this mess? So things that I can do here, I guess. I can... Oh, I'm also probably just dead to this, right? Yeah. So now what? Let's first attempt this. And I understand that I could have potentially walked my opponent into a play of surprise block here on here. I don't think I really have the luxury of being able to do that so freely, though. So I think I'm going to tap these 2, tap the Supreme Phantom, prevent a draw, and from here I'm really just stuck hoping that one of the cards in their hand isn't a Rattle Chains. So what happens here is that they attack with all 3 of the remaining creatures here, and I want to block with Rattle Chains on Mausoleum Wanderer. Fuck. Or I'm just dead anyway. I could in theory block here, take 6, go to 2, but I don't think that's good enough. I think I'm just going to pack it up and move to the next round. Good stuff, opponent. You won a mirror. So we're on the draw, playing against Jim Davis. Oh, today's Monday. Are we playing against Goblins of some sort? Is that a thing? I know he does, what is it called? Mog Mondays. Carplusan Forest? Elvish Mystic. Oh, no, so we're probably just playing against, green-red vehicles. So let's go ahead and end the turn here. And this matchup's going to be a little bit difficult because of the Bone Crusher Giants and stuff. Squee's also pretty good, so they get to make a Munchkin every time they attack with Squee. So rinse and repeat our little point about Mog Monday being a thing in this universe, right? So there's that, and I will be a little okay if I can untap with the Supreme Phantom, but I am ultra scared of them just untapping and landing a Seeker's Chariot and like fucking my day up. So if that ends up being what happens, there's not really too much I can do about it. And if they attack with 1/1s before combat, or I'm sorry, without casting anything pre-combat, I'm not gonna block because gross. I think it just got worse, y'all. And we are in fact playing against a bunch of goblins. Got it. That's a thing. All right, so here's a block. I take 7 to the face, and is there any out here? That's a negative. We're dead. All right, so on the play for next game, I will get to play with these Brazen Bowers and these Aether Gusts. I also think I want Slip out the backs. I don't know that I really want 2-mana counterspells like Lofty, and we saw Coco, which means there's no cat cars. I also don't think Shacklegeist is going to be good here. Shacklegeist not being able to block isn't really where I want to be in life. And also the fact that Shacklegeist tapping down 2 of my creatures to tap down a deck that's trying to go wider than yourself is just like never a good plan. So I don't mind taking those down to 2. This is going to be one of those matchups where rather than Brazen Borrower, I'm going to be really sad that I'm not playing Nebelgast Herald. To be fair, that was also true in the last game for Mono Blue Spirits. So this might just end up being the case that I really just need to put Nebelgast Herald back into the deck and stop trying to play the Brazen Borrower. Because there's so many creature decks in Pioneer/Explorer right now that I think I might have just like made the right call when taking the previous tournament seriously, and going back feeling a little bit like a mistake currently. I mean, this also could just be confirmation bias because I'm getting my ass kicked, but I don't know that that's not still true for it, you know? So here I'm going to get to play first, and my hand is way better than last time. So I get to do this, and having a second Mausoleum Wanderer in play will help at least a little bit to play around any copies of things like Obliterating Bolt or whatever. I legitimately think I'm supposed to do this instead. Yeah. Oh, that's a nice mountain choice. Yeah, I actually think that was better. Okay. Not great, but I also really need to hit land drops if I'm supposed to keep trying to interact in this game. So I got the land that we asked for, but I don't have a 1-mana protection anything, so I did know that was a possibility, and that there was honestly nothing I could have done about it. Okay. Let's draw a Geistlight Snare or an Aether Gust. I don't really want to just die to a Coco. Good enough. And that means that I now don't have to use my Mausoleum Wanderer just to counterspell a Collected Company. I can also, if they try to point something here, Battlecry Goblin. Goblins you control get +1 in haste. And if you attack with 6 or greater, you get a red goblin that's tapped and attacking. I think I'm okay with that, actually. And more Elvish Mystics, you got it. Do you naturally have haste? No? Okay. Wow. Every single mana elf in the known universe. Understood. Here I want to develop my Rattle Chain. So doing this gets me obviously a bit of a faster clock here, and my clock, even considering this, is currently faster than theirs is. So I think that's what I need to play for. And now I've got access to 2 pieces of interaction, being this and this. So yeah, all right, I'm in for that. Sick. So now we get to go to game 3, and me being on the draw is going to suck. There is nothing I can do about that. But I think I'm going to keep the same configuration. I could sub out Shacklegeist for Spell Pierces, playing around both Obliterating Bolt and Collected Company. Actually, I am going to do that. Because I can't really deal with either of those cards anywhere near as well on the play as I can on the draw. And, for example, even looking at that last game, right, Shacklegeist would have been absolute trash, because, like, tapping down 1 of their Llanowar Elves when they had, like, 6 on the table, what good was that going to do? So I'm going to keep this. And Aether Gust plus Geistlight Snare is a decent bit of interaction here. Slip Out the Back is especially good. Oh my god, yes. So this is especially good now that I have CO plus Spectral Sailor. And now that they are going to try to resolve something here, I get to do this. Untap CO, hold up Geistlight Snare. And if they try to, like, Obliterating Bolt, then I can use my Slip Out the Back instead of Geistlight Snare and be even happier about that. But as it stands, I will... Legion Warboss will definitely catch a Geistlight Snare. That card can race basically everything in my deck by itself. So here, I'm just going to go ahead, get my attack for 2 in, draw a card. It is another Geistlight Snare. That's really good. So now I can interact 3 times for 1 mana apiece, being here, here, and here. Or if they are trying to resolve a Coco, I don't mind Aether Gusting that to make them put it on top. So one of the cool things about Aether Gust against a lot of decks is when you're in the middle of drawing cards and doing stuff right, you can put Aether Gust on the stack to try to tempt your opponent into putting the same card on top, and then you can use another counterspell to effectively make them waste 2 turns trying to play the same thing. And since when that is the scenario, our cards are generally a lot cheaper than theirs, here's a good example, then you effectively get more turns than they do out of the same piece of interaction. Since I use the 2 mana card here though, in my end step I am not going to try to resolve a Spectral Sailor. I'm just going to hold up Slip Out the Back mana. So this way, if they have like a Rending Volley, I don't just get got. And where did that go on the bottom? Yeah. Remember that time we talked about Rending Volley? So here's my Slip Out the Back. Everybody, call your favorite psychic. We are all spirits/mediums. So that's funny. Man, you know, you gotta love it when a plan comes together. This time I will do this since I have multiple pieces of interaction. If they try to resolve a Coco, I don't mind just using Geistlight Snare. But here I'm just gonna get, upkeep. Absolutely not. Brazen Bower is also quite good. So let's go ahead and get an attack for 4 in. I'm not going to do anything else pre-combat here. And a Mausoleum Wanderer is actually a good draw because of another Coco. So if they don't have a land but try to resolve a Coco, that's not happening here. We are past the point where I care about this, so I'm not going to do anything about that. And I'll just take this 3, that's whatever, I'm at 11. So here, the idea is that I can hopefully draw... Actually, since they played the land, I know I don't have to play around anything. So I'm just going to do that. 3, 4, 5... Never mind. I don't have to count. So, cool. Good stuff. And any of y'all who are not familiar with Jim's stream, go watch him. He's a funny dude. So, 3 super fun rounds of gameplay. And really good times, right? Like, just about all of our little talking points came up. Remember that time we talked about Leyline and Avoid, and then the very first thing we came across was a graveyard deck. So that's always good to know. We talked about the reason we wanted 4X Mystical Disputes, and then round 2, we immediately queued into the Mono Blue Spirits deck. And then, of course, we talked about the 3X Aether Gust because we wanted to play around infinite creature decks being in the format with the addition of smaller red things like Eidolon and the Great Revel immediately queue into a red-green deck. So it's super nice to see that all the little talking points that we'd like to discuss come up, and sure, sometimes we're like Nostradamus in Magic the Gathering form, but it is what it is, right? That was really good overall. Fun stuff, great gameplay, well on the way to Mythic because of a couple of victories, so that's always nice. And that's going to be it for today's gameplay. As always, if you like what you're watching, make sure to click like on a video. Let me know. Subscribe to the channel if you're new, and I'll see y'all on the next one.